excited to be joining you guys live. I love when we get to do this. It's one of my favorite things, being with you here in real time. And I know that one of the hardest parts of recovery isn't just knowing what to do. It's knowing, what to do when and what to do when things feel uncertain, when symptoms flare or when understandably fear starts to creep in or when you're not sure if you're moving forward or if you're stuck. So that's when it matters most to have voices of experience, people who have been through this that we can lean on in this process and get some support with. So if you're new here, I'm Raelan Agle, and here we uncover the puzzle pieces that help people move forward from ME/CFS, long COVID, chronic pain, and beyond through lived experience, through the recovery stories that we share, and just sharing with you the latest mind-body science. And today's guest is someone who embodies that blend of lived wisdom and the science beautifully. Devon Carter is so excited to have you here with us. She spent 18 months off work with long COVID, much of it bedbound, before discovering her path to recovery. And she did a deep dive into brain retraining and learned as much as she could from this, including taking my Brain Retraining 101 program, which is one of the places that Devon and I originally met. So Devon, thankfully, has fully recovered and returned to work, regained a vibrant life with her son, and then eventually trained officially in pain reprocessing therapy. So today she's our lead coach inside our Brain Retraining 101 program, where she supports so many people on our group coaching calls with warmth and humor and just remarkable clarity about recovery. So this video today, this conversation is special because it's a live Q&A, which means we'll get straight to what you guys most want to know. So Devon, no pressure. We're going to put you in the hot seat. You'll be answering the questions here in real time and sharing her recovery journey and her tools that she now teaches to others. And if you're just catching the replay of this, you're still going to come away with so many practical insights and encouragement that you can consider applying right away on your recovery journey. So let's dive in. Devon, so excited to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here. Thanks, Raelan. I really appreciate you inviting me to come and speak to people.
So I did my best to try and briefly summarize your journey up until today, how you're here, sitting here, talking to us and doing the work you do. But before we dive into all those questions, and people who are joining us live, thank you for being here. It'd be great if you start right away, if you could just start letting us know where in the world you're joining us from. I love seeing all the different places around the globe that we all come together. It's a pretty incredible thing. And you can start popping your questions in right away too. We're going to get to those in just a minute, and as many of them as we can. But before we do, Devon, it would be great to hear from you just a little bit about your journey that brought you here.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so I have to say the lockdown and the pandemic were very, very difficult for me. I had a young son at home, 3 years old, when it all happened, who has asthma and a history of breathing troubles. There was a lot of fear. I was also at the end of a relationship with his father, and that was coming to a close. And then we entered this like really terrifying place. And so I understand there was a lot of stress, but I could never have guessed that 3 years later, when I did finally get my first infection with COVID after 4 immunizations at this point, that I don't know, all of that must have come up. I mean, that's all I can think of is that when I got COVID, I thought everything was going to be okay. Everybody I knew had already had it, and I was just going to recover and everything be fine. And that wasn't what happened to me. I continued to get worse and worse over the next 5 or 6 months. And I was completely bedbound. I ended up having to move in with my sister and her family because I was not able to eat on my own because my throat muscles didn't even work properly. Like I was so incredibly ill. And the only reason I say that is not to instill fear, is just I want everyone to know that I was just as ill as anyone else. And I'm fully recovered. So I just want to give a lot of people hope that even though it took a long time to learn the science that I needed to learn and to join the programs that I needed to join, like Raylan's, um, I went from the very bottom to fully recovered. So I want you to know that you can do that too. Now I've gone and taken the courses through the Pain Reprocessing Therapy Center, and I'm now a certified coach. And so I have my own coaching program where basically I do a book club about the way out. So we read it together, we share insights, I answer questions in a kind of a group coaching situation. My next session is starting tomorrow. And I know that's really last minute, but there's still lots of room for people to register and lots of time to get in there, even if you don't have the book quite yet. So yeah, that's where I've come to now. I recovered and I want to help other people get out of bed. That's my big thing.
That is absolutely amazing. And it's so unique and special that you do this book club. I haven't seen anybody who does something like this. And The Way Out is one of my all-time favorite books that I think is helpful with practical strategies and science-backed insights about why all this is happening. And it has an audiobook too. So if people are struggling to read, you can listen to the audiobook and just keep up as best as you can. So yeah, the links for all of that are in the video description. So if anyone's interested in joining Devon's book club that starts tomorrow, it's not too late. Devon is amazing. If you're new to her, she's just the work she does in our Brain Retraining one-on-one program is incredible. I say when I look at these group coaching calls that she does, I said, I'm like, it's better than anything we have on YouTube. Like all of the insights and just all of the amazing stuff that happens, which is why we wanted to do this live. I thought, you know what, let's not just have it contained to there. Let's just open it up. Let's share Devon with the world. So yeah, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know this is your first time here and jumping in live is very brave. So props to you. All right, so let's jump in. What's our first question here? Okay, Bill. Hey, Bill. Thanks for jumping in so quickly. Would just love to hear your comments on what you see that causes crashes. That is a really good question, Bill.
Yeah, it's a great question. And we hear a lot from the kind of biomedical community about energy envelopes and, making sure that we pace and doing all these things. And what happens is if we think that we've done too much and we fear that we've done too much, that's when that danger fear cycle that we talk about, where the brain has basically erroneously decided that we're in danger. Oh, we walked too far, or we were up too long, or we watched too much TV, or we were on the computer for too long, whatever it is, sends a danger signal to our brain. And then that danger signal comes out as symptoms. And that's what can cause what we call crashes or dips, or, Miguel calls them adjustment periods. There's all different ways to think about it. But it's the fear of the crash that causes the crash, not the extra steps, not the extra time in front of the TV, not the phone conversation that you had with a friend that you desperately wanted to talk to, even though it made you feel unwell. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a really good answer. Uh-oh. What is going on? Am I?
Oh, I'm on my own and it's live. Let me just keep talking. So for anyone who doesn't know the kind of essence of what's happening is that we've got a part of our brain that is kind of the evolutionary part of our brain, the subconscious, where it is always trying to keep us safe. It has no role in keeping us happy. It has no role in keeping us thriving. It just wants to keep us out of danger. And this part of the brain can sometimes be triggered by things that are not dangerous. And this is when we start to see ourselves getting into a chronic situation. So maybe we have a headache that's really, really bad, and it's on like a really stormy day. We can actually end up teaching our brain that the next time there's a big storm, we'll have a headache again. It makes these associations and it sees danger in the storm when there isn't any danger in the storm. This can happen with different foods. It can happen with different smells. So what we need to do is just make sure that we're conscious of the fact that all the symptoms, all the physical things that we're feeling in our body are not just things that are wrong inside our body. There is no like disease or injury or anything damaged in the body. What it is it's sensations being sent by our brain, making that erroneous danger signal happen. So that's a little bit of a description of why it's happening. And then the other thing is that if we really fear the things that are happening in our body, our brain continues to send that danger signal, which continues to raise those symptoms. So that's a little bit more on the idea of what causes a crash. Raelan, you're back.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Talk about dealing with a nervous system going insane. I'm like, did I just leave this interview? I don't know what happened. I was booted out of it. Oh, the joys of doing this all in real time. So yeah, thanks for your patience and thank you, Devon. I'm sorry, everyone.
No problem. We kept it going, didn't we,
I,
guys?
I had no doubt that you would. You know what? Just a couple nights ago, I actually had a dream about this interview where everything that could go wrong would, and it was just almost comical, like a Three Stooges type of situation. And then when this happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's happening. And Devin, you and I were saying before we started recording, we're like, as you go through life, all those tools that you lose through that you learn through recovery, you keep using for everything else, for situations like this, about regulating your nervous system and just going outside of your comfort zone and learning to deal with the unexpected and roll through it. So yeah, I was putting
Absolutely.
some of those tools to use as I tried not to panic. All right, let's keep it rolling. What's our next question? Okay, from Butterbloom. That's a cool name. Oh, great. I have chronic pain in my head when I think active. It's just my nervous system, etc. Visualization, my pain and overreaction gets worse. How can I retrain when I missed the end. Let me catch that. How can I retrain when it activates my symptoms more? Okay. So it sounds
Yeah.
like activity in general is making things flare and you're trying to work through it if I'm understanding correctly. It's tough. How do you navigate? It's a really challenging thing and it's a big thing to ask of people. Like, it feels like everything I do makes me feel worse and it gets my nervous system going and my symptoms start going. So what am I supposed to do in those moments? So what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, even just the body of your question tells me that you really understand what's going on in your body, and that's absolutely the first step. You recognizing this kind of overreaction that's happening to things. So well done on understanding those basic concepts, because when we are in the kind of worst of the situation, our symptoms are the highest, that's when we want to go back to the basics and reassure ourselves that it's an overreaction. There's nothing wrong. It's okay. But as far as retraining, it is highly recommended to kind of let go of any grip you have on trying to fix yourself when you're in the highest state of severe symptoms. So in that moment, when you're feeling it the worst, if you're having a bad day, you've woken up and you're like, oh, heart's racing, or you're short of breath, it's not going to be a good day. That's when you want to do all the things that just make you feel a little bit calmer, a little bit safer, and a little bit more comfortable. You want to just have so much self-compassion for yourself in those times and just like, really just take care of you and focus on brain retraining when you have more of the mild to moderate symptoms. So feel free to do some of those avoidance behaviors that feel good to you, whether that's sleeping more or listening to something or reading something, whatever your kind of cognitive abilities are. Whatever makes you feel better in that moment is going to be the best thing for you. Meditation, yoga nidra. But try not to focus on doing those things to try to calm your symptoms. That's, putting too much pressure on meditation. You just want to try to calm yourself down as best you can, accepting the fact that your symptoms are there.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and it's one that comes up all of the time. I'd say in virtually every group coaching call that I do in our Brain Retraining 101 program. And we were talking about this, us the coaches, because it does come up so much. And then I had, as you know, the opportunity to interview recently Christy Yuppie. It'll be coming out live soon, or coming out on the channel soon. And she's the host of the Curables podcast, Like Mind, Like Body. And she's just really well informed and does a lot of great work in this field. So I asked her this question. I said, this comes up every day, so what do you tell the people that you work with? And it was just very reassuring how she answered it, because she said she really normalized that everybody is confused by this because it's confusing. And if you are confused and it's you're trying to figure out every day, like, when do I push a little more? When do I scale back? She's like, congratulations. She's like, that is the recovery journey. She's like, it's more of a dance than a prescription. Like, you're just trying to figure it out day by day. So if it feels a little bit gray for you and a little bit unclear, and like you're having to figure it out a little bit and make a lot of judgment calls on your own, that's exactly what the recovery journey is. So just because I think we all want a prescription to follow, like, here are the steps, here's the formula, here's the percentages to follow. And, so if you're feeling a little bit lost on this, everybody is. We all were on our journeys, and it is a daily thing of figuring it out. So, yeah, really great question. All right, what do we have next here from Steph? Hey, Steph, what is the best tool for fatigue that helped you?
Oh, that's a toughie. I will be perfectly honest. The fatigue was mainly for me caused by cognitive stuff. So, physically, I could still get around the house to get food or to use the washroom. I was still being able to shower most days. But if I got a text that I had to respond to, or if someone asked me a question, or if I had to do some paperwork for insurance or anything, the fatigue was so bad. The only real way that I could ease off the fatigue is by learning the science of what was causing it. And I know that it's really hard to keep hearing, but whether it's fatigue or it's pain or it's gastrointestinal issues, or like my reproductive system went haywire and everything went crazy, it doesn't matter what the symptom is, it's all caused by the same thing. And so the focus for everything is trying to calm and ease that danger signal, is try to relieve your nervous system from thinking that it's in this danger, because it isn't. There is, nothing is failing inside you. For so long, I thought my body was failing me, and that's not what's happening. So as far as fatigue goes, one of the things that I found the most helpful to me is talking to my doctor and getting the right medication to help me with the crazy amount of stuff that was going on in my brain. My brain was on such overdrive, thinking the most awful, hopeless thoughts. Like the places that I went to, the dark places I went to, were so terrible, especially around the kind of 4, 5, 6 month mark, when doctors were telling me there's no treatment and there's no cure, and then I was just at home in bed and there wasn't even a follow-up appointment. Like, it was so tragic for me, and I'm sure that people can relate. So I did talk to my doctor and get some help, because having a bit clearer of a mind, a bit calmer of a mind, is what helped me be able to learn all the things I needed to learn to calm my nervous system and to help that fatigue. So I hope that helps. Again, it's not recommending anything. It's just saying, if you're at the point where, your brain is going and your body is going bleh, you may want to see if you can kind of even that out a little bit and talk to your doctor about that. Make sure you have a really good support system with your medical doctor.
Yeah, it's another really great question, and something that I think it takes a. So once we've come to a place where we understand that for us, that we know or strongly believe that nervous system dysregulation and brain retraining, neuroplasticity, this is at the core of what is causing symptoms. It's such a different shift of how you approach it. Because I had, like many of us did, I think, years of this long list of symptoms. I'm like, how am I going to tackle each one individually? And I had supplements for the different ones and different therapies I was trying. And in the end, for many of us, the symptoms move around and they change, and trying to tackle each one by one doesn't necessarily get us very far. And another big one that comes up is sleep. And this was mind blowing to me, that for many of us, sleep is just another, like insomnia is just another symptom. And it was a good reminder for me. Recently, I had a really stressful week, and I knew my nervous system was on fight or flight and high alert the whole week. And I wasn't sleeping the whole week. And it was a good reminder that, sleep hygiene and all these things are important. And of course, there are things we can do to help improve our sleep. But whether it's, pain or fatigue, or for many of us, insomnia or anxiety, or, all of these different things, it's all coming down to that core thing. So I just love how you said of understanding the science of what's causing these symptoms and why our body is triggering all these alarms for us, and then coming at it from a more,
Yeah,
zoom out and let's look at them all as coming from a similar place.
that's it. Yeah, don't be scared of your fatigue. Don't fear it.
Yeah.
because it will, as you continue your brain training and continue calming your nervous system, you'll get more and more energy as you go. It's just another symptom like
Yeah.
all the others, and it will be relieved.
And it's one of the biggest things I hear because we share a lot of wins in our group calls, and then we've started asking people like, what do you attribute this win to? And the biggest thing I hear people say is, I stopped being afraid of the symptoms. I started realizing that they were going to come. So because we live in this state of like, how do I prevent symptoms? And if symptoms come on, it means I'm going backwards and I'm failing. And once you kind of just become at peace with the fact that they suck and no one enjoys them, but they are a normal and inevitable part of the recovery journey, you're going to have them. They're going to keep coming up as you work through this and show your brain and body that things are safe again. And once people can kind of just exhale, okay, they are going to come and it's okay. And it's amazing. That helps them start to shift and to start to ease up. Yeah, great question. All right, next, what do we got here? Tashvik, hello. What is the starting point for healing? Is brain retraining, or should I heal trauma first? Wow, such great questions today.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The person who I always lean on when it comes to questions like this is Dr. Howard Schubiner. So he's got a couple books about this. The Unlearn Your Anxiety and Depression is highly recommended. It has been shown through kind of their clinical research and everything that many people can fully recover or almost fully recover without having to do the deep dive into their trauma. However, there needs to be an awareness of how the things that have happened to us in the past, the stressors that we have in the present, and our fears about things that may happen in the future are causing that danger signal in our brain. So again, I know I keep saying it, it goes back to the science, but understanding how we become hypervigilant in our nervous system, we go on high alert because of things that we've learned through our past. Maybe we lived in an unsafe household as a child, or maybe we were bullied at school to an extent that we always felt like we needed to be on the defensive. We always needed to appease people. We wanted to, stay out of the light so that people wouldn't pay attention to us, so they wouldn't bully us or whatever. And what happens is we can actually kind of train ourselves through various different childhood experiences. We can kind of train ourselves to put ourselves on this hyper alert, this hyper vigilant nervous system that's always looking for emotional or psychological danger, not just physical danger. And of course, most of the stuff that we fear will happen doesn't happen, but our brain doesn't know that. It reads it the same. So yes, you can definitely start working on learning those basics of the brain science, moving into brain retraining, as long as you have an awareness of how all of this stuff affects it. But no, you don't need to try to simultaneously, while you're facing these horrible symptoms and while you're in bed, while you're housebound, trying to go into all the deepest emotional stuff you've ever been to. It really won't help you. It'll definitely increase your symptoms in severity and length of time. So I would say start off with just the kind of pain reprocessing therapy, brain retraining, however you want to call it, whichever route you take, whichever program you join. Just stick with that process, trust that it's going to work. And what'll happen is when you start to recover and feel better, you'll have way more capacity up here to start addressing all of these things. And perhaps that's what will take you from 80% to 100%.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And everyone's picture looks a little bit different. So what is it that's, setting your nervous system into high alert? And for some people that past trauma piece will be bigger and for some it will be smaller. But you're right. It's what we see comes up a lot is that for lasting recovery and lasting, alleviation of chronic symptoms, that's when sometimes that looking at that bigger trauma piece comes into play. But expecting people to try and tackle that when they're in the thick of it all is just unrealistic, yeah, and not necessary. And I love how Dr. John Sarno says that he's like, if any one of my patients had to resolve all their past trauma to get better, not a single one would have. So we're not aiming for perfection here. We're just trying to keep things at a manageable load. We don't have to figure it all out and be a Buddha on a mountaintop in this picture of peace for our symptoms to go away. But yeah, great question.
Yeah.
And great. Yeah. All right. What do we got next here? Shandi. Hey, Shandi. Thanks for the question. Good to have you here. I feel like my last remaining issue is histamine issues and post-exertional malaise. I am stuck here and feel so defeated. relatable. Thank you for sharing. How can I see progress in these areas? Really good question.
Yeah. I'm sorry you're facing this issue. This is really tough. What I found in my experience, and perhaps others can relate to this who have recovered, is that as I was recovering, the least scary symptoms, or the ones that upset me the least, were the ones that dropped off first. So I started to see things, oh, I haven't had that symptom in quite a while, or oh, I haven't. But the ones that were the most severe or the most feared by me were the ones that took the longest. So after kind of a year and a quarter, so we're talking about like, 15 months or so, I was able to go for walks around the neighborhood and stuff. Like physically, I was starting to be able to do stuff. I was no longer housebound, but I still couldn't get on a computer and start like responding to emails and doing stuff. My cognitive impairment was the last thing to fix because it was the thing that hit me first, the most, was the most upsetting to me through that whole experience. It's one thing to be ill in bed, but it's another thing to like not be able to read for 6 months. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't watch any screens. I couldn't even have audio. It was like earplugs all the time. And so I want you to understand just that, like, it may be that these ones are hanging on just because they're the ones you feared the most and you still fear. And perhaps now that you're getting a lot better, you've moved from fear into frustration. And Dr. Schubiner has his, 5 F's that he says. So first is focus. We spend a lot of time focusing on symptoms. So you're going to try really hard not to focus on the histamine or what you're eating or what you're experiencing or what you're exposed to, or the post-exertional malaise. Try not to fix it. Try not to fight it. Do all those things that we want to do. But the two biggies are try not to fear it and try not to be frustrated by it. Perhaps you just need to reflect a little on all the symptoms that you don't have any longer. Celebrate those. Celebrate the things that you can do now that you couldn't do before. Find joy in the little things that you can do. And don't fear the crash, the post-exertional malaise. Don't fear that. Just if it comes, it comes. Your success in recovery is not to do with getting rid of symptoms. It's actually getting to a point where you're completely indifferent to them. You're just accepting of them. You don't fear them anymore, and they don't cause you that kind of severe frustration. Because I know as you start getting better and things start getting better, the frustration increases. So it's a real trap. I feel for you.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thank you for that question. And that was a really good response, Devon. And, I was talking about how reducing your fear of symptoms is one of the biggest shifts that people find that helps. But another equally big one that comes up that you were just talking about in all the recovery interviews, I wish we could just put together clips of people, all the different people saying this and, in the group coaching calls and everywhere, is that shift from trying to fix yourself to just a shift on joy, on like, how do I live my life today? Because nothing sends a clear message of safety to your nervous system than, it sounds cliche, but stopping to smell the flowers, going outside or whatever it is that you can do, listening to some music that you enjoy, doing some guided visualizations about some vacations or whatever it is. But just like, how do I find some joy? How do I live a little again? And just like, there's no wrong answer. What makes you happy? People share all sorts of things, like playing with Lego, listening to music. One woman said putting on fancy underwear, even though she hadn't showered in a week. She's like, what's going to make me smile today? What's going to make me feel like I'm still, living my life? So yeah, I think that's really important. Yeah. All right. Next question. Natasha. Hey, Natasha. Came in late. All good. Thanks for being here. If not already asked, can you give example of what brain training looks like? Examples of the amount of time and how your day would look? Another really great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. It comes back to the idea of like, if there were a prescription or a set plan that we could follow that would get us to recovery. And there isn't, because everybody's so different. One of the things that helped me, because I really couldn't just sit and meditate for 20 minutes because my brain was just in such that hyper alert state, and it would go to dark places so quickly if it was if it was left to its own thinking. So for me, things like taking deep breaths, doing short meditative moments where I just like take a moment to ground myself, was how I started to calm my nervous system, because the idea of just sitting through a half-hour yoga nidra was so anxiety inducing for me at the beginning. So I feel like this translates to brain retraining too. Some people are really good at waking up in the morning and doing 20 minutes of brain retraining,
Mhm.
or maybe doing it 3 times a day, and that works for them. For me, it actually worked more to just, as I was doing things, I would do brain retraining, even just for a minute or two. So if I was laying in bed feeling awful and I was like, okay, I need to get up and go to the washroom, and I don't want to do this because, the idea of even getting up for that caused panic, I would use that opportunity of that raised heart rate and the tight chest as an opportunity to do just a little bit of brain retraining. I am safe. My body is fine. And I would just start to do some of that brain retraining. I'm just going to the bathroom. I've done this countless times in my life, like more than anything I've ever done other than breathing. So I just had to kind of remind myself that this was really safe. So I would do little brain retraining all through the day whenever it felt like it came up. I really want you to just feel what's best for you, but always know what you can do in any moment. So one of the things I ended up doing is I grabbed like a little piece of paper and I wrote down all the things that I can do when my symptoms are a little bit more or my symptoms are severe to make myself feel better. Because what I found is when I did start feeling those symptoms, I was really bad at thinking, oh, I should do some brain training, or like, oh, I should do something to calm my nervous system, because you're kind of like, so I would say, figure out what works best for you. Is this a moment where I should be doing brain training, or is this a moment where I should just be helping my system ground itself and feel safe and just calm it, right? So decide what works best for you.
Yeah, it's of all the people I've interviewed, I get such different answers from everyone, which really highlights that you really need to do what feels right for you. And you talked about, I am safe, my body is fine. This is one of the things that we teach in Brain Training 101, because it's important to have these, sometimes they're called neutralizing statements, that things that can just pull you back into the moment and remind you that everything's okay. So in Brain Retraining 101, we say, I'm safe and my body is fine, because we're addressing the two core things of, your nervous system thinks there's danger and we are terrified because we feel like our body is broken and falling apart. But then we very much emphasize that you need to do what feels right for you. So one suggestion is to do a 20-minute meditation where you just repeat this sort of like a mantra. But people adapt this to all sorts of ways. Some people say, no, that doesn't feel right for me. I just say it to myself when I need a reminder throughout the day. Or one person printed up signs. She's like, I can't even remember to say it, or I don't want to sit and do these meditation sessions. So she just printed up these words and put them all over her home. And then other people say, like, those words don't fit for me. So I changed it to something else entirely. And it's just, we really encourage just doing what feels right for you. And that unfortunately there is no prescription. And what I see time and time again in the recovery interviews is that people really find their path to recovery when they just trust themselves and they look at all the suggestions out there as suggestions, because this isn't a magic potion of say these 7 words and you will be better. It's what's going to work for you. When I first heard about brain retraining, I kind of thought that's what it was. It sounded so mysterious, and I thought I'm just going to have to follow this sequence of movements and words and then something's going to snap in my brain. But it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing, which
Yeah.
there's been some studies about kind of auditory messaging.
Mm.
So when you are saying to yourself, I am safe, my body is fine, or you're saying it's okay, you don't need to worry about it, I'm comfortable, everything's fine, whatever your words are, make sure you're saying them out loud. Make sure you're not just thinking them. It doesn't actually work the same, because when we're thinking of them, we're in our prefrontal cortex. But when we're speaking them, we're listening with our ears, and all of our brain is listening to that. So the subconscious brain that we're trying to get to is the one who's listening to those messages. It's the one that hears the loud bang and makes you go like this, right? So it's also the one that hears you going, it's okay, I'm just going to the bathroom, or it's okay, I'm just going downstairs to get a snack, everything's fine. So I spent a lot of time talking to my brain as if it was a very scared little puppy, which is basically what it was. So make sure you're speaking out loud, because you really want that subconscious brain to be listening.
Oh my goodness, I love that so much. That is so powerful. Devon, you are incredible. I love that. I'm going to use that even with myself with so many things I do in life. Because you're right, we do just get stuck in our head, and that's such an important insight. Thank you for sharing that. All right, what do we have next here? Okay, Karen. Hey, Karen. I know someone who is hypervigilant. Yeah, I know many people who are hypervigilant in this space. That is who they are, and for understandable reasons. But they aren't ill with ME or similar. Good question. What is it that makes the difference and makes someone become ill? So, how can some people seem like they're stuck in that, or they have that personality that we see a lot for people who face these conditions, and how come others don't?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a good question. It's one that I asked myself many, many times. Why me? During the time that I was ill. Why did all these other people I know who I have lots of friends who have kind of anxiety profiles like I did, and lots of friends who have way more stress in their life. I was actually at a point where I like didn't really have a lot of stress in my life when I got COVID. So the why me question, why some people, why not others, was really a big thing. What I've really learned now, though, and I know this isn't going to give you peace of mind or even really answer your question, but this is what I've noticed is that, I mean, and Dr. Schubiner says it, everybody has mind body symptoms, right? Like whether it's just getting
Mm-hmm.
nervous and sweating before doing something or blushing because you're embarrassed, whatever, those are mind body symptoms. Some people can live with pretty high mind body symptoms and just keep going through life like that. It doesn't sound fun to me to live like that. And I can think of
Yeah.
times in my life where I was definitely living in a state of real fight or flight, high alert, and still functioning. Do I prefer that? No, I definitely prefer how I'm living now. Now that I've learned all of this, and all of those things like anxiety, everything have just really calmed down for me. So this recovering from this illness has helped me recover from all the things I didn't even know I was struggling with before I got sick. So
Yeah.
we don't know why some people get sick and why other people don't. But I do think that getting to a point where you've been and then getting sick means that your body is giving you the opportunity to learn all these things that it needs to learn in order to get better, not just from the illness you have now, but to just lead a much more comfortable life in the future. And for some people, they don't get to that kind of crash point where they have to do this work. And so they end up just living up in this hypervigilant range for their whole lives because nothing has actually forced them to have to do the work. They're still functioning. So I know it doesn't answer your question, but this is just some of the observations I've seen where, like, I know people who are chronic migraine sufferers, and it's like, oh, I'd do anything if I could help them recover. But because they're still going to work, they're still doing the things they need to do, they just don't have time for, the process of recovery. So, as I said, I mean, Raylan, maybe you have something to add?
I think as best as anyone on the planet could, I think that does answer the question. I mean, we're still figuring this all out and we don't know all the answers, but absolutely, it is a spectrum. And, I was living in probably chronic fight or flight for probably 15 years
Yeah.
before my nervous system finally, shut me down with a whole host of symptoms. So, yeah, I think it's the best we can. Anyone can answer it right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really good question
Yeah.
that may never be answered. We don't know. Everybody's just so
Yeah.
unique. That's all it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many different things that affect neuroplasticity, whether it's things from our childhood, so many different things shape, how our brains react to things. So, yeah, we are unique. All right. Next question. Sorry, I saw that came up. Clement, hello. I've been getting a bit confused lately because of information about repressed emotions. Do we just need to show safety and respond well, or should we try to process an emotion which creates symptoms? Oh my goodness, these questions are incredible. All right, Devon.
Yeah. So again, Dr. Schubiner, who's like my favorite person. I hope one day I get to meet him like Raylan did. Um, he does emotional awareness and expression therapy. And this is so important because I have definitely been suppressing anger and fear my whole life, especially anger, because if I felt angry about something, I would instantly feel anxious. I was so uncomfortable with that emotion that instantly I'd get all the anxiety feelings. And it's still a journey for me to learn how to kind of safely process anger. And I'm working on it. But what I think is important is this isn't about expressing anger towards the person, like lashing out, or getting overcome with guilt because you're trying to process it. This is how do we kind of do healthy processing of these things. And there's lots of different ways that therapists can help you with that. Or you can do journaling. Nicole Sachs is a great person to look to. But remind me the question. I want to make sure I answer the specific question. Brian, are you able to pop it? See if we can.
Yeah. Just how much how much focus should be on reacting to symptoms, if I'm recalling correctly, versus like doing that
Right.
emotional work? How much focus is on, okay, let's feel my emotions today?
I would say it's really important, but it's really important to do it safely. So if this is an emotion that's really, really big, like grief, of loss, I would say maybe try not to process it on your own, process it with the help of someone else. Because you're already in this kind of state of high alert. So you're feeling these symptoms, and you don't want to make yourself feel worse. You want to make yourself process these without too much kind of chronic symptoms coming up. So if you're finding it difficult to process on your own, I would say get some help processing it, whether that's a really good friend who's good at listening, or it's, calling a counselor or a therapist or a psychologist or someone who can help you. I think, trying to navigate this while you're alone in bed with a chronic illness is a bit too much for any of us to ask ourselves. So just, yeah, I would say it's important to go through that stuff. Just try not to do it alone. Try to get help while you're doing it.
Yeah, when I worked through my recovery journey, the emotions piece was big, but I also recognized, because I'd seen it, and I imagine many of us have, that when I tried to process too much at once, the symptoms would come on so strong, and it was just really hard to do. So, I think move slow to move quick. Like the fastest path out of this is probably the slowest, which requires a lot of patience. But yeah, chipping away at these things slowly. And I love someone who I talk about a lot in my videos is Corey Muscara. He used to be a monk and now he's a positive psychology professor. But an important first step that he talks about, because he talks about nervous system regulation a lot as well, he calls it meeting the mess. So we can spend a lot of time just not even wanting to acknowledge that those emotions are there because we think the second we even let them see the light of day and acknowledge that we're having them, we have to fix them all. It's like, step one is just saying that they're there, like, oh, hello, yeah, I see you there. Oh, yeah, oh, you over there. I know I'm carrying this. I know one day, okay, maybe we'll work through that. But instead of spending so much energy being terrified of these things that are there and trying to push them down and pretend they're not there, just start by just being like, all right, it's okay to have all these things, and I can acknowledge that you're there, and I can give you space to breathe without having to fix you all today. And we all carry these things, so yeah, it's okay. Yeah, great question. All right, what do we have next here? Sam. Hey, Sam. Hi, just began exposure therapy after being housebound. I've noticed my anxiety and dizziness are much worse. Is this normal? And also, I feel like my safe space at home is no longer my safe space. Yeah, great question, Sam.
All right.
Many
Yeah.
parts to that question.
Yeah. I mean, two main parts. You've got, is
Yeah.
it common to see an increase in symptoms first? And yes, it is. It means you're doing it right. Okay. So not fearing the symptoms that are going to come after doing a little bit of exposure is key, but also making sure you're doing a little bit of exposure, right? This doesn't mean I'm going to walk around the block today and 2 blocks tomorrow and 3 blocks the next day. So try to remove all of those metrics, try to get away from any type of measuring things. Your exposure should be when you feel comfortable enough. And when you think about doing something, you're like, yeah, I think I can do that. I think this is good. That's when you want to do it. Don't force yourself to go on a certain distance walk or answer a certain number of emails or do a certain amount of work each day and try to increase that. That's more like graded exercise, right? And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about doing things with the energy of safety, with the energy of joy, and doing them little bits at a time. Yes, you will see an increase in your symptoms, but that's okay. and just to be okay with them being there and knowing that you've actually done a good job if it's just a little bit of an increase in symptoms. Don't push yourself. That's not what we're doing. We're just kind of exploring. Just explore doing a little bit more. And then one of the great things that I found was that I would do a little bit and then I would like sit down on the couch or whatever I need to do, lay down, and I'd do brain retraining right then because I know that my body is going to be processing what I just did. And it may decide in a couple hours that that was too much. So, what I want to do is right after I do that little bit of exposure, I want to reassure my brain that that was perfectly safe. Hey, remember how we went into the backyard and looked at the flowers? That was so awesome. It was so beautiful. Look at the beautiful flowers. I'm so glad I did that. I felt so safe doing that. Just like really talk to your brain after the exposure as well. And that will hopefully kind of curtail any little like danger path that it was planning on going down. You don't want it to go down that danger path. As far as your home not being your safe place anymore, I remember laying in bed after like almost a year and wondering if I'd ever enjoy laying in bed again. Will I ever enjoy bedtime again? Will this ever be a nice place to be ever again? Because it had been such a miserable place to be, you know, just like the no sleep, like the sleepless nights, the endless days, the discomfort that I'd felt, never having my body temperature be right in bed. Like, will I ever just be happy at the end of the day to go to bed, be cozy, and go to sleep? I did. It comes, okay? So I'm not sure if your safe place at home is just because you're experiencing so much trauma there right now due to your chronic illness, or if it's because something has actually changed in your living situation where you no longer feel safe at home. It's not the comfort place that it used to be. I'm sorry for either of those cases. If it feels like it's a traumatic place for you because you're experiencing so much trauma in that home with your illness, I want to reassure you that it gets so much better and you start to really enjoy your home and just experience joy and just tidying up and little things that you start being able to do and it feels really good. If there's something about your living situation, there are some people, not all people, some people who actually have to make really like fundamental changes in their life in order to recover. And it's just the truth. If there's someone in your life who's causing you to feel unsafe, if it's a workplace thing, if it's an environment thing, if it's where you're living in the city, whatever, sometimes you do need to make some big changes in order to recover. So keep that in mind. I hope that answered your question without any more context.
Yeah, well, that's a really great question and a really great answer. Thank you for that, Devon. All right, what do we have next here? From Marcelina, I hope I'm saying that right. Hello, hello. Thanks for this live meeting. I would like to ask for the opinion if there is any difference between fearing the symptoms and fearing that the symptoms make it hard to do my duties.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Between the fear of the symptoms and the fear of all the ways it stops you from living your life, is there a difference?
exactly.
No.
Yeah, there's a difference. It- You know, foundationally, there's a difference. The result is the same, unfortunately. The
Yeah.
result is still the danger signal. Because, as I said, whether it's like childhood, past trauma that's come up, or if it's the current stresses in your life, which can be good things, by the way. It could be that you're getting married soon and you're really stressed about the wedding. That can bring on symptoms. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Or future worries. And what you're talking about here is actually future worries. So in the moment, you have chronic symptoms and you're worried about how long are they going to last? How much worse are they going to get? What are all the things in my future life that I'm not going to be able to do because of these symptoms? And oh my gosh, I can totally relate. I spent most of a year living in that space. Just, oh my gosh, my son is growing up and I'm not able to do all the things with him. And I'm going to lose all these opportunities. We're never going to be able to go on bike rides again. You know, I just went to the depths of everything, not just duties, but like my whole life had been taken from me. But that is all fear-based and it's future-based and there is only the present. That is the only moment that exists. If your symptoms are here, that's the present. It doesn't even mean they're going to be there tomorrow. We know that we have our ups and downs. So I think that working on getting rid of the fear of symptoms is key. And the only way we can stop fearing symptoms is to stop fearing what the symptoms mean to us, because it's just going to double down on the fear. So yes, there is a difference, but the result is the same, which is increased symptoms. I'm doing
And
all those things with my son now. It's going to be fine. You keep working on it.
I think they are different, but also the same, because fear of the symptoms and fear of how the symptoms impact your life still comes back to fear of the symptoms. And fear, yes, in many ways our nervous system registers the same, but in other ways, no, because not all fear is created equal. And I have many people reach out saying, I live in a country where there is instability. I do not feel safe in this country. How can I ever recover from this when I live in an environment that doesn't feel safe? And what we find, and what the research is showing, and what the experts are saying, is that, because there are many people who live in countries with instability, but not everyone has chronic fatigue syndrome or long COVID. And so, you get the biggest results or the best place to put your focus when you look at that fear around things that are related to you and your body, as opposed to the fear of, political instability or whatever is happening around you. So fear of symptoms, fear of your body not being okay. This is what we work on primarily with recovery, because the world is going to continue to throw fear at us. So yeah, yeah, it's a great question.
It is. There was an exercise I learned to do years ago where you get your hand and you put it on a piece of paper and you just you trace the outline of your hand on the piece of paper. And what you do is you write down all the things that you worry about that you have control over inside the hand. And you write all the things that you worry about that you have no control over outside of the hand. And what you find is there are only a few things that are actually inside that hand. Things like your attitude, or the way you deliver, the way you present yourself to the world, or how you treat people. All of those things, how people treat you outside that hand, what's happening politically, or what's happening even locally. All of those things are kind of outside your control in this moment as you sit here with your chronic symptoms. So that was a really good exercise for me. It really helped me kind of ground myself and stop worrying about things I really have no control over.
I love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, we are just about wrapping up. Let's see how many questions we can get through before we finish up here. Okay, so how did you implement cardio, retraining, and joy, social interaction out of the house? Examples of pacing physical, cognitive, emotional energy buckets in your day without getting paralysis analysis. Oh my goodness. Good question. Lots of components there.
Oh yeah, so many components there. Okay, so how did I work through introducing cardio with joy? I didn't. I just introduced joy. Let go of the idea that you need to boost your cardio or strengthen your muscles or do all of these things. Just do what feels nice. For me, it was walks. For other people, it's starting to do a tiny bit of yoga. Um, Going to the pool at some point, if you're getting to your nervous system being okay. I had a friend who picked me up and took me to the pool when I started getting better, and we just went into the pool just to feel buoyant. Did I swim lengths? No, of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. So I would say just do what brings you joy. The idea of like pushing to gain your cardio back, gain your strength back, all of that, just kind of let go the perfectionism for a moment and just focus on what brings you joy. I can tell you, I started swimming very gradually because I was a length swimmer, and I went to the pool a couple times and just dipped in the pool. One time, the first time I went to the pool, I actually walked to the pool and back, and I didn't even go in the building. I just got used to going to the building and back. Then one day I was like, no, I'm just going to go for a swim. And I swam a kilometer, fine, just like I used to before I got sick. I hadn't swam really in a year and a half, and I just went and did it. There's a lot of stuff that we think that we've lost physically, but we haven't. It's all, again, the brain and the nervous system that are causing what we feel is weakness, what we feel is like cardiovascular loss, all of these things. So just really take your attention away from those metrics and focus on what brings you joy. If it brings you joy to go for a little walk, go for a little walk. If while you're on that walk, you're like, I'm just going to run the next 10 paces to the end of the block because that feels kind of fun, do it. Just whatever feels fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love this. It comes back to that core shift in understanding of what's going on, that your body isn't broken. You're not trying to, it's not that you're physically incapable of doing these things. It's just showing your nervous system that life is safe again and that your body is okay and everything is all right. And one woman I remember shared that she's in one of our group coaching calls, but she talked about like she used to go to the pub all the time with her husband. She's like, so now I go to different pubs. She's like, I don't drink, but I just like, and some are louder and some have more people. But she's like, it's so exciting to get to start doing that again. So I just love her stories of her sort of like pub hopping approach to recovery. But that's what works for her. I used to exercise a lot. I loved strength training and running. So when I started getting well, those things were so exciting for me to start doing again. And it was just like, little bicep curls with no weights. So that worked for me. But for someone else, that will be completely irrelevant, not necessary, doesn't require any focus. So when you see my earlier videos, I talk a lot about that kind of stuff because for me, that was a big part of my path. And, my understanding is evolving over the years. All of our understanding is evolving. So if I would go back, I would de-emphasize all of that because it's not about reconditioning your body. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
about everything that Devon just said.
Yeah, just keep in mind that you want to take, in order to pace, you mentioned pacing, which for
Yeah.
me is kind of like a curse word when it comes to recovery,
Yeah.
um, is like just try to let go of the idea of pacing because in order to pace, you need to measure, you need to
Yeah.
track. And I want you to move away from tracking symptoms, tracking exercise, tracking cognitive exercise, whatever. Just let go of all the idea of measuring and tracking because just because you felt good enough to go for a walk around the block one day does not mean you're also going to feel good the next day
Yeah.
to do that. And that's okay. Do it when you feel good. Maybe you'll go for a block in the morning and in the afternoon, you're like, I kind of feel like going for another block again today. Go for another walk around the block. That's great. That's what you felt like doing. But tomorrow, you may not feel like doing any walking. Does that mean that you haven't had progress? No, because you had joy and you did what you wanted to do in the moment. And that's the key.
Devon, this is amazing. I could keep you here all day. I really appreciate the people who have joined live and those of you who will tune in and check out the replay. I hope you will come back again. I just, your insight, your lived experience, the research, your training, you are so knowledgeable on this topic, and your practical advice for people and insights are invaluable. This is pure gold. I just really appreciate you. And just as we wrap up, I just want to take a moment. So if people are watching this and they're like, okay, I need some more Devon in my life. I think we all do. How do they reach you? What do you have available? Let's just share that with people who might be tuning in late.
Okay, so I am available in two different ways. The first way is that I am a coach who does live group coaching calls for Raelan's Brain Retraining 101 course. I cannot recommend the program highly enough. It is just so terrific. It helped me so much. And that was even before the live coaching calls came in. And the live coaching calls are like even better because you find the best people, you find community, you don't feel isolated, you get to learn from other people's experience. It's just the most wonderful group sharing. So that's one way you can find me. If you're looking to sign up, if you'd like, there's only one place you need to go, which is my website, which is devoncartercoaching.com. So Devon, Devon, Carter, coaching.com. There you will see some links to Raelan's program. So please feel free to use them because you get a little bit of a discount. I'm terrible at winking. Then also on there, you'll see my group coaching program that I run, which is basically a book club where we read this book together and I share insights, you share insights, and I also provide lessons each session that you can't find in that book. So based on other resources. And it runs for 5 weeks. The sessions are next starting tomorrow. There's lots of time to sign up still. I know it seems like last minute, but sometimes we just have to leap in and do something. So please go to my website and find stuff. Otherwise, just thanks so much for listening today and joining. And thanks, Raelan, for all the nice things you've said.
Thank you so much for being here. I couldn't possibly have loved this more. And thank you again to all of you who joined live and for your questions. Really appreciate you. Big hugs to all of you. Please do yourself a favor. Take a moment, go in the description, check out Devon's website. She is absolutely incredible. Devon, I couldn't possibly respect and appreciate and adore you more. So thanks again for being here. Really appreciate you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Bye.